Welcome to Spiritually Raw. We expose and explore controversial truths, myths, and theories surrounding the spirit world. Guests include QAnon experts, investigators, debunkers, and skeptics of the supernatural, unexplained, and flat-out unimaginable. Content discussed on this show is not necessarily the opinion of the cast of Spiritually Raw, and topics quite often are for mature audiences only. This show is not intended to replace any medical, financial, or legal advice and is for entertainment purposes only. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride.
So my 12-year-old daughter has been exhibiting some extremely destructive behavior, so much so that I had to send her as an intervention to live with her aunt and uncle. But when I started using the HempWorks CBD products, I also started my daughter on the HempWorks CBD products because of all of the research that I was doing on the amazing benefits. And let me say, I had a conversation with my daughter yesterday. Prior to this, she was, depressed, even cutting herself. The conversation I had with her yesterday was just amazing. She told me she's interested in learning how to meditate, that she started doing affirmations and she feels amazing and that they actually work, and that she was sorry for never believing me, and that she thinks that what happened by me sending her away was the best thing for her because we now have an amazing relationship, and she's interested in doing spiritual work and learning about this through the Divinely Guided Children's School. This is just crazy because she wanted no part of this for years. I've tried to, help her, change her mindset. This is just outrageous. I absolutely, it brought me to tears yesterday, and I just had to share this.
Hello, everybody. How are you? And welcome to Spiritually Raw. Thank you very, very much for your energy exchange with us today, as always. And we hope you woke to the most miracle morning and are also having the most fortunate day today. Suzanne Spooner is here with us today, and she is going to talk to us about talk. And we'll find out more about that from April in just a second. I do want to thank you very much, all of you, for subscribing to the channel, turning on the notification bell so you are notified when we get great guests like Suzanne on, and also make sure you are sharing this. Thank you very much for that. And don't forget, you can watch this episode and many of our others in its entirety uncensored at spirituallyraw.live. So don't forget to check that out. It's like the Akashic Records of our world with all the guests we've had.
It
right?
really is.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool place to visit. So check it out, everybody. So what else?
We forgot a HempWorks Minute.
Yeah. You want to do one?
I think it's your turn.
All right, cool. So HempWorks Minute. I'll do a HempWorks 30 seconds for you. Melatonin. If you are not getting connected at night or you're not sleeping at night, visit our friends at HempWorks and check out their CBD melatonin, everybody. This stuff has been a game changer for me. And I got to tell you, if I haven't said this in a long time, it's one of those sleeps where you just... you don't even know you fell asleep.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
and
that kind of like
so refreshed.
You wake up totally refreshed. So it's really awesome like that. So if you're missing that kind of experience, visit our friends over at HempWorks and see if they can do for you what they have done.
If you want to sleep, just like Suzanne's new baby granddaughter, then try the melatonin, because that's exactly what you're going to get.
Well, good way into segueing into Suzanne. So let's introduce Suzanne.
Welcome, Suzanne.
Hello.
And congratulations.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you. We're excited to have a new little human in the family.
Oh my gosh.
Well, sweet.
It is so true, but you know what? Literally, it's like you have a little angel in your energy field now. I mean, it's awesome. Congratulations.
No,
Thank you.
Look at her. She's already
I know, you're
smiling.
literally.
You're going to be smiling the whole interview now.
I don't blame you.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Suzanne Spooner, welcome to the world. In 2008, Suzanne founded the Art of Universal Knowing, or TALK, T-A-U-K is the acronym. TALK is a proven system that teaches the long-forgotten truth that all men, women, and children have a connection to God and many masters. TALK is the understanding of this idea. By learning TALK, you will also establish a connection to a loved one who has passed over. You'll have the ability to tap into this connection whenever you are placed the intention to do so. This is going to be awesome to learn. Suzanne was personally recommended by Dolores Cannon as one of her practitioners, and she continues to work with Julia Cannon in these classes.
All right, Suzanne, this is great. It's good to have you here, and thank you for coming here and talking to us about talk. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Oh yeah, 100%. You're great there. So talk. Okay, so I've never heard about it before.
Neither have
So
I.
if you can help us break that out, when is something like this even come into existence? The
Okay.
concept. Yeah.
Well, it all started. Honestly, it started in my car. I was driving one day and I just had this thought that, gosh, I want to help people. I want them to come to me, but I don't want to give them the answers. I want them to find their own answers. And literally, I can tell you what street I was on when this thought came in, and I just like, yeah, that'd be nice. And I just off it went. And
A
then,
nice new revelation, actually.
yeah, it really was. Gosh. And so several months later, I was taking a class called Spiritual Response Therapy from a dear friend of mine, which Spiritual Response Therapy, or SRT, is it uses the tools of charts and a pendulum, and it does all sorts of things of clearing ancestral stuff and current life stuff and your house and your people and yourself. So I just decided to take the class. Some friends had taken it and loved it, and I thought, okay, I'll do it too. And I just took to it. And so one day, right after I took the class, I was at home by myself. My kids were at school. My husband was at work. And I sat down with my pendulum and my charts, and I was just going to practice what I had learned. And all of a sudden, very strongly, I felt my father in the room. My father had passed many years before. And I'd felt him before, but this was different. It was really strong.
How do you know it was your dad?
It just felt like him, like if you had been standing in the room physically with me, I would have just.
Well, yeah. And the reason I'm asking is because I feel what I sometimes often feel like is my dad, but then I'm like, wait a minute, is that my mom? So I'm wondering.
Yeah. I don't know. The thought came that it was just, my dad's here. And so I'm thinking about that. I'm like, I wonder. And I had the pendulum in my hand and I knew my yes and my no's. And so I just asked, and at first I asked, is somebody here in the room with me? And it moved yes, really, really, really big. And I thought, okay, let's figure this out. And so I'm looking through all these SRT charts, which aren't designed for communication. And I couldn't find any place to ask a question like what I wanted to ask. So I thought, well, I'll just draw up a letter chart. And then I went, oh no, that's like Ouija. I don't want to be like Ouija. And I'm having this magnetic conversation with myself, like, no, stop it. Just, you put it out for the highest and best good, and probably nothing will happen, but maybe something will, and just try it. And so I wrote this, I'm not an artist, so it was a really crappy chart. It was this round letter chart. I still have it. It's so off center of the letters, but I made enough spaces and put the letters, and I had this big blank space because I don't space well. But I just thought, what the heck, let's try it. And I held the pendulum over the chart, and a message started to spell out. I'm like, what? Am I moving it? I'm like, I don't think I'm moving it. And I happened to have a pen and paper beside me. So I would let it go for a few words. I'd put the pendulum down. I'd write down what it said. I'd pick the pendulum up. It would just start right up where it had left off. And I just kept doing that for just a little bit. It was a short message. It's on my talk website. But I think it said something like, this is it, ready to begin. I think we'll be able to measure the gateway into other consciousness, something like that, begin soon. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, where'd that come from? And I was perplexed. I didn't know what in the heck had just happened. And I left it. I went away, and it's kind of just pondering on it. And it was either later that day or the next morning I sat down. And this is what's so funny is I am like I am so glass half full. I'm so obnoxiously positive, but I sat down to prove that it wouldn't work again. that it was just an anomaly because I couldn't understand what the ramifications were if it worked again. What in the heck am I supposed to do with this? And so the next time I sat down, I put the pendulum in and it immediately started spelling out, "Hi, Zippy." And Zippy is my dad's nickname for me. It's what he's called me ever since I was a little girl. And I have to tell you, I call it a heartburst. My chest just opened up, my cheeks, my whole face went bright pink. And I was just flabbergasted.
And you just felt the pendulum just literally just doing its own thing, and you were able to separate that it maybe wasn't an emotion that you were feeling?
No, because I wasn't expecting that. I mean, it wasn't in my thought process that this is what's going to happen. I was just really blank with all of that because I didn't know, I had no expectations. And I didn't even think to hope that it would happen. I was just checking to see, does this happen again? So then every time that I've sat down since then, there's a message. And, when I very first started with it, it would be people, my loved ones that had passed. My dad was
about the pendulum too. But you just sparked my memory. I'm going to start you going back to that.
I want to ask you, and I know there's a lot to cover with you, but I want to ask you, how long did it take for you? Because I know a lot of people are very intrigued with the pendulum, but then they get thrown off with how much of it is, their own, their own intent, if you would, versus a real neutral thing. How long did you think it took you to start to really trust that, hey, this is the real deal happening? This is not, I'm not willing this to go in a circle this way or that way or up and down, whatever.
Well, it didn't take long because the messages did not sound like they were coming from me. It wasn't quite my speak, so to say. It wasn't the thoughts I was having, and I, all of us could manipulate it. It's, our thoughts are powerful, but for this, what I was learning in that early time was that you really needed to just kind of get yourself neutral and just allow for it to come through, just kind of like you're the, taking dictation. And, and even with my students, I say, don't be thinking of questions to ask while the message is coming through. Just let the message come through and then ask questions afterwards. Just let it come through in a pure form. But the funniest story about that actually is early, maybe into the second week. I hadn't told anybody what was happening because I thought everybody would think I was nuts.
Yeah.
And
of course they will.
But every day I'm gathering these messages and they're just like blowing my mind. And my husband came home from lunch unexpectedly one day and I didn't hear him. He walked into the kitchen and I'm like, "Oh, hey." And I'm covering up the chart and, I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing? Why are you home? Go away."
He didn't know you were doing this.
And he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Nothing. Do you need something?" And he comes over and he's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Okay, fine. I know you're not going to believe this, but this is what's happening. And I'm getting these messages. And here, read this one." And, he's an engineer, so he doesn't go the same way I do with thoughts. So he reads the message and I'm going to say he's a sweetheart. And I know how he meant this. It's going to sound harsher than it was, but he read it and he goes, "Huh?" He goes, "You're smart. You're not that smart." And I'm like, "I know. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's coming through me, not from me." And he looks at my chart and he's like, "That's poorly drawn." And I said, "I know that." And he says, "Do you want me to go back to the office and draw that up on my CAD program for you?" And I said,
Nice.
"Yeah." And to this day, when people order the class and they want a chart, an official talk chart, it's his chart. So that's how that became.
That's cool.
So that's kind of cool there.
That's
so
very cool.
You bottom into your evil world.
Yeah, your evil web.
Your evil web.
What does a talk chart look like or consist of?
Does it look like a Ouija board?
No, I actually
Can you get one?
Yeah, you want me to go get one?
Yeah, I want to see what it looks like.
That way. Yeah. Now everything looks the same except for the letters aren't on there. I like people to put their own letters on it so their energy through their handwriting is on their chart.
Mhm.
She was just being really sweet and putting the letters there to make it easier.
That's great. So it work. Does it work like you put it? You're holding the pendulum, and then
It'll go to the letter.
Go to the
so
letters.
What do you say to people that are watching this that makes it different than a Ouija board? I mean, isn't it kind of doing the same thing, driving to a letter? Something's there, or how do you? But what misconception can you clear up about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in the class, and there's actually, I did this class for free on YouTube during the pandemic. So anybody can take it for free. They don't have to go to the website to pay for it. It's just a gift that I put out there. But in the class, we do a few things to help clear our energy fields and kind of put a bubble of light around you so that you're not attracting lower energy. And I explained very clearly in the class that because of that, it's very rare that anybody would get a lower energy message coming in. It's really easy to tell when they do. They're bossy, they're inappropriate, they're unkind. If it's that stuff, you just clear, take a break, come back when you feel ready and do it again if that happens. But it doesn't usually happen. The messages are usually just very clear, very high vibrational messages, very loving and kind and supportive. And they can be from anybody. They can be from loved ones. I talk to my own high self, me and from other lifetimes. My friends have come through that have passed. I've talked to the high selves of friends that are still in body here. I talked with Millie, my granddaughter, when she was in utero. That was fascinating.
That is fascinating. Like, so she responded by the pendulum?
Yeah. So, okay. So here's an explanation of that. I had early on, a friend of mine was coming through who unfortunately had been murdered. And so he and I were conversing via talk. And I asked him, I said, what is it like for you to talk to me? And he says, well, I went to a class over here to learn how to do it. And it's like, he says, it's like learning a new language, but on a vibrational level. And if you think about that, a pendulum is just a tool and it's picking up your energetic field, and everybody has an energetic field. That's why everybody can use one. So when you're holding it, the energy is just coming in, and this is, I guess, a very directed energy. The intention is out that you're wanting to connect and get a message, for your highest and best good. And I don't usually ask to speak to somebody particularly unless I need that. I love to just let who needs to come through to give me the message I need to receive. But I'll always ask who it is right off the bat so I know who I'm addressing. But it could be God, it could be angels, it could be friends, family.
Anything that's freaked you out?
No, because I don't entertain fear. And that's a really big deal, and that's why I tell students that, if you get kind of a fearful or a inappropriate message, it's like hang up the phone. Like you don't need to feed that, and your fear feeds that. Mm-hmm. So you just disconnect and you go and do something out in nature, get a nice drink of water, clear space, and come back and when you feel ready and do it again. But no, I never have. I did have, this is a fun little story. Once I was just rocking with this great message. I think it was a God message. It was just beautiful. And then it kind of took a weird turn, and it just wasn't feeling like a God message. It's just not quite right. Not awful, just not right. And I took my pendulum off and I said, am I really connected to God? And it said no. And gave me a little explanation. It says that when you're in this field, you're like a very bright light in a very dark space, and kind of like a moth attracted to a flame. They want to know, these lower energies, like what's going on over here, and it looks so nice to be in, right? It's different than the dark, and so they can float in, but typically, when you got this protection around you that we do in class, so then they just don't get through. But this one did. And so instead of getting fearful, I just stopped. I, came from a place of compassion and just used my pendulum and the intention to help send it to the light, and it doesn't need to stick around here, and off it goes. And I went back to my message and it was just boom, 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 really clear again. I was back to that high level message again. But a few weeks later, that lower energy came back in to thank me for helping him get to the light. He said he had been lost. He saw what was happening and
Suzanne,
what.
when he came back in, how did you know he came back in? Did you actually go back to the board to kind of see that, or how did you get that?
I was getting a message at the time, and
you were getting a message.
Yeah, and it says with the board. Yeah,
Yep, okay.
Yep, and it came back in and introduced itself and just thanked me, and off it went. It was really kind of nice, nice to help.
That is nice. You got some good high vibes there about what you got going on. So at least you're living that. Now you're a fan of acronyms, because we got TAUK and then we got QHHT. What's the difference?
Well, let's talk about the similarities first. Okay, so talk happened to me back in about 2008. And again, what I loved about it was I wasn't giving people answers. I was showing people how they could find all their own answers within them, which I just feel is so much more empowering. And I have great friends that are amazing psychics and that, and I love them. I use them. But I do think that we all have the ability to find this answer and healing within ourselves. And so that's what I loved about my process. So when Dolores happened to me, and I started understanding what she did with her hypnosis and this past life regression and connecting into the high self and getting all these answers, that also appealed to me, because again, it was helping people find all of this knowledge within themselves.
Through hypnosis though, right? Was it through hypnosis?
Yeah, so Dolores's hypnosis, talk is channeling.
Right. Yep.
So QHH2 is related to hypnosis.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then talk.
QHHT is quantum healing hypnosis technique, and that was what was developed by Dolores Cannon, who practiced hypnosis for over 45 years before she passed.
I really like your technique, because just about anybody can implement it, as long as if you clear your space, and it's a great way to get better clarity and also help raise your intuition. And you got to open your intuition.
And I was thinking as we're talking, because I've tried it myself before, and I've often wondered, I'm like, did I will this to go in this direction, and did I do that? But even if you did will it, it just still goes to the fact of how powerful your mind is, that you can make that. And so that I just actually I connected that dot. Thanks for that. Today, you know what I mean, is really just like, listen, if you wanted to go left or right or whatever, or in a circle or counter, you actually, I've seen it, but it's our mind that can do that. So similarly, our mind can clear up and receive an open message too. How do you recommend people clear up for this though? I know you said you do some like intent and things like that, but what do you do personally? Do you go in any type of meditation of any sorts to really clear your space, or you just, you put the intent there, you're ready to roll, right?
We'd like to share a story. While it may sound fictional, it's very real and happening right now in front of our very eyes. It's called The Great Awakening. Our sisters and brothers that come on Spiritually Raw are doing everything to help expand global consciousness, and in many cases putting everything on the line to share their messages about what's happening around the world for the greater good of humanity, while exposing the truth of the deep state and the dark forces behind it all. We are living in the most unbelievable times. Some may even say biblical, scary for many and yet exhilarating for others. Together we are taking part in getting everyone acclimated to the Great Awakening process and the exciting new discoveries that lie ahead. The sad part is many of our amazing guests are being heavily censored, socially shamed, and outright banned on many platforms for exposing the truth and piercing the veil. By becoming a viewer, you bring your powerful energy towards this global movement of other truth seekers. If you're resonating with our show, please let us know by hitting the like button, sharing, subscribing, turn on the notification, and leave some comments. Together, we will turn the universal key to global harmony and create a unified world. And remember, tune in often, tell all your friends, and most importantly, may all your dreams come true. Thanks, and God bless Patriots worldwide.